Good morning. I'm going to carry on looking at Matthew 16 in a little bit, but first let's pray. Father, thank you that we're able to come to study your word. Thank you for a new day. Thank you for your mercies that are new every morning. Lord, we just ask for fresh revelation from you today to feed our souls, that we have new insight into your love for us and for what you've done for us. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm going to read from Matthew 16, starting at verse 15. But what about you? Jesus asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, Blessed are you, Simon, son of John, for this was not revealed to you by man, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he warned his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Christ. So yesterday Katie and I had a discussion about Jesus' question to Peter, which is also a question to each one of us. Who do you say that I am? But when Peter gives his answer that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God, Jesus tells Peter that he's blessed, but that his reply is not based on his own thinking. It's not something he's thought of himself, but it's a fresh revelation from God. It reminds me that it's only by God's grace that we're able even to come to faith. It reminds me that I'm unable to do or say anything that could save myself. Without his gift of faith, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have any of my own. My part is what I do with that faith that he gives me. We can rationalise it away, or we can step into the invitation that Jesus gives us. God's always inviting us to go deeper with him. We just need to be still long enough to listen, and then be brave enough to follow him. When we do, he will grow what he's doing in us. For Simon, he became a stone, a rock. And yet after this, Jesus had to reprimand him, even call him Satan for what he said. And then later he denies Jesus 3 times, even when Jesus had told him that this would happen. Yet Jesus restores him and raises him up. Peter chooses to live into the forgiveness of Jesus. And God goes on to use him mightily in the church in Jerusalem. There's much debate among scholars about whether the rock that Jesus refers to is Peter or not. Yet God does have a tendency to bless the individual and use individuals and give them revelation rather than using organisations. History tells us Peter's role was central to building of the church in Jerusalem, and then it spread out of Jerusalem into the surrounding countries. I'd just like to read the Passion Translation of the same passage we've just read. Mine was from the NIV. But you, who do you say that I am? Jesus asked. Simon Peter spoke up and said, You are the Anointed One, the Son of the living God. Jesus replied, You are favoured and privileged, Simeon, son of Jonah, for you didn't discover this on your own, but my Father in heaven has supernaturally revealed it to you. I give you the name Peter, a stone, and this truth of who I am will be the bedrock foundation on which I will build my church, my legislative assembly, and the power of death will not be able to overpower it. I will give you the keys of heaven's kingdom realm to forbid on earth that which is forbidden in heaven, and to release on earth that which is released in heaven. He then gave his disciples strict orders not to tell anyone that he was God's anointed one. I do like this interpretation that the rock Jesus refers to is the truth that it's Jesus, the Messiah, and that he is our foundation, nothing more and nothing less. whatever our doctrinal differences between the different denominations, or our preferences for practicing worship. If there's one thing that we hold true, we're one in that truth that Jesus is the Messiah, the one who saves the whole world. And standing on that gives us authority over all the powers of darkness. As I've often heard said, if Jesus has all the authority, that means the devil has none. And Jesus gives that authority to his disciples to release heaven and to bind up on earth those things which are not in heaven. Things like sickness, disease, abuse, pain, suffering, injustice, abuse of sexuality, some of the many things that are not seen in heaven. Jesus is saying that we have authority to bind these up, but then to release the good of heaven. Healing, wholeness, identity, security. So this day, may we stand on the strong foundation of Jesus, knowing it's only by the gift of God that we can even start to believe. And may we know that we've been given authority to release heaven wherever we are, and may we do it. Bless you today.